Says, get that thing out of my face, Dad. She's so funny. All right, good morning, guys. Hey, so yesterday I took care of finishing up that nagging electrical issue. I don't know if you guys saw that or not. If you hadn't, go back and check it out. I'd like to say there's a link up there, but probably not. I mentioned in the last video that I want to track down a niggling issue that's been bugging me for a long time. And so essentially, when you just barely touch the throttle, there's a momentary stumble. Man, I got my readers on. I hate those things, but they're necessary. Anyhow, there's a little momentary stumble when you first catch the gas, and it's really difficult to hold an RPM that's just off idle. So that has all the hallmarks of a vacuum leak to me. But I've been through the vacuum system several times here. I think I know what the problem is, but I'm going to make an effort to isolate it today. And so that's going to be the purposes of today's video, is to do a little bit of troubleshooting and a little data logging in the driveway to get the see if I can't get to the bottom of that, because it's always annoyed me. At first I thought it was vibrations in the throttle blade itself. It was kind of fluttering a little bit, and I took some steps a long time ago to eliminate that. That didn't do it. Been through the whole vacuum system, isolated some of the things. If you watched any of my previous videos, and you probably didn't because almost nobody did, I went to great lengths to formalize the vacuum system in such a way that A, it'd be easy to troubleshoot, and B, that it didn't cause damage when under boost. But anyway, so what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to start it up, do a little bit of data logging just on a normal idle regime, and making some small throttle adjustments, some small pedal inputs to see what it actually does in the data. And I've already seen that, but I wanted to back-to-back test it today. And then what I'm going to do is I'm essentially going to turn on a little bit of light here. I'm essentially going to nuke all the non-essential vacuum items here. So what I'm going to wind up doing, this manifold up here draws all vacuum from this source by the manifold, and it feeds the brake booster, the heat and air conditioning through this fitting, and the PCV system through this fitting. So what I'm going to do is basically just block this off and test it and see if it's one of those items that's causing it. My gut tells me it's the PCV, and I'll tell you why. So at high manifold vacuum, it's drawing through the PCV system, through the bottom of the lifter valley, and getting rid of the gases that are in the crankcase, and that's a good thing. They make their way to the top end. But I've also got this blow. All right, words, English, valve cover breather on there, and so that's going to act like a vacuum leak, and I got that. But if that's not there, then when you're at low manifold vacuum or positive boost, there'll be nowhere for those excess gases to go, and they just get bottled up in the system, and you have problems with gaskets and things of that nature, and it robs power. So that has to be there, but it also acts as a vacuum leak. So I already have a way to fix that, but it'll require basically different valve covers. And I'll tell you why, because this valve cover right here with these ridges in it, although I love the way they look, it kind of prevents me from putting any kind of fitting on there that will be a positive seal, where I can put a check valve in it so that it'll only blow out during boost conditions and low manifold vacuum, and it will not allow air to be drawn in through it in the case of when the PCV system is functioning. You could say I could get rid of the PCV system altogether, but my wife hates a stinky car, and I'm not really a big fan of it either. So a car with just breathers on it is fine for the racetrack and stuff like that, but chicks don't dig it, man. Maybe a few do, and I'm sorry to be sexist there, but it's the bare fact of the matter is that it's not refined when you don't have any way to get rid of those fumes from the engine compartment and stuff. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to back it out, do a little bit of a quick run with it the way it is right now, log some data, and then shut it down, close off this port right here, and then run a back-to-back test and that should tell me once and for all whether it's related to the vacuum system. If I have a vacuum leak around the fuel injectors or the intake manifold, it's not going to tell me that, but I'm pretty sure I don't. And so this manifold over here also operates off vacuum and boost, but there's very little there. It's just a fuel pressure gauge, the map sensor, and the boost control solenoid. So I don't think that that those are going to be an issue. So we're going to work just like I said. All right, that's enough on that one. Let's get started. All right, got it pulled out of the garage, and got the laptop hooked up. So, oh, stupid CMOS batteries, acting funky. All right, so I'll get a little cold start action. Don't need that open right now. All right, so connect the ECU to the laptop. Fans are here. All right, let's see. I think that was the one I had. Okay. So, all right, we'll just start a data log here. Then I'll cycle the key. We'll see how she starts up. Not great. Probably needs a little bit more fuel for the crank. You can really hear the MSD back there. That's why I've got that cover for it. A little buzz box. All right, I'm just going to give it a couple little throttle blips and kind of show you what I mean. So it's all right if you just put some gas on it, and that high idle is by design, it comes back. But if I just barely touch the throttle, and it'll come back. Like if I was to try to hold it at 1500 with just my foot, it's almost like it kind of fights me. I have to sit there and play with the throttle. Try 2000. See, it'll steady out after a few seconds, but initially it just doesn't. It kind of fights with me and wants to do weird things. It's not the idle control motor either. I've watched that and I've logged it, and I can show you that in the data logs. It's actually not doing too bad right now. That's probably because it's still running really rich. That's all right. All right, I'm gonna stop this data log now. I've got what I need. Even though it's not really fully warmed up, doesn't really seem to matter. I'll stop and save that one. All right, I'm gonna shut her down, go to work, we'll do it again. All right, like I said, now I'm just going to disconnect the vacuum at the manifold and plug it, and then we'll do a back-to-back test. Man, it is smoking out here already. You know, I just closed that door with the keys in it. It's a doggone good thing that I got this door open. This window, rather. I've locked myself out of this so many times with these shaved door handles, it's not even funny. Usually I have to go in through the trunk, but I had the window on the passenger side open, so that helped out. All right, let's get her back up and running. Stabilize just a little bit there. Doesn't look like it's operating significantly different from the from where it was before. Target idle's 1,000. With this E-cam, I've never been able to get it to idle much lower than that. This may be part of it, but it just ain't happy much lower than about 1,000 RPM. So, but maybe we'll play with that if this turns out to be the cure. So I'm just going to blip the throttle a few times to see how it reacts. Now we'll just try to see if I can kind of edge it up to maybe 1,500, 2,000, 2,500, and we'll see how it responds. Still kind of doing it. I think that's initially the idle control motor trying to fight against me and bring the idle down. And I've got the triggers for throttle position set pretty low, but there it is right there too. It just doesn't want to. Now I'll look and see if that's the little bit lean when it's doing this. I might take a look at my map and see where that's operating, because that seems to be fluctuating a little bit on the O2. You can see it here too. Feedback's actually active now, which is surprising. So we'll take a good look at that in the log. It may just be that I've got a lean spot on the map somewhere in that area right there, but that'll show up. So I'm not going to try to fix it in the car. Let's get about 2250, see if I can hold it there. Go through that process one more time, try to get some decent data. When I first crack the throttle, it's almost like I have to apply the throttle twice. So I just barely touch it, and see how it jumped up there a little bit and then stabilized. I think that has to do with the behavior of the idle control motor dumping a bunch of air at first. So what I mean by that is that we'll see this in the log in a little while, but when you first crack the throttle, the target idle speed goes up, and so therefore the idle control motor opens up and lets a bunch of air in, and then you got to compensate with that with your foot. which has always kind of annoyed me, and I might try to work through that. Now let's try it again. Let's try to go to 1500. Pushing throttle, pushing throttle, pushing throttle. There we go. Just trying to hold my foot as still as possible. I'm going to bring it up to 2 now. Pushing, pushing, pushing. It comes up and then it comes back down a little. Still kind of feels like it's fighting me a little. There we go. There's 2000. I'm going to hold it there for a little bit. Sleep on me there a little bit. All right, I think I got some pretty good data for that. So I'm going to go ahead and stop and save this. I'll just call it second idle. It always stamps the date and time group with it, so I can usually find it anyhow. If I try to name them, just let them know where they are. All right, that's enough of that. I'm going to go ahead and close this just so that it doesn't give me error messages when I shut the engine off. And I'll shut it off. All right, next thing I'll need to do is just go in and look at the data. Now, I could tell just a little bit that it was better. I'm not sure if it was overall better, but what I've done is eliminate a bunch of variables here. I've eliminated the brake booster, the PCV, and the ventilation system from the vacuum system, and I want to see if that has any measurable effect when I look at the logs. All right, good deal. All right, so this turns out to be a direct result of this setting right here: idle off if throttle position over, and idle on if throttle position less. So depending on the sensitivity of your throttle pedal, this could be as high as 5% or 5%. Now, based on the AEM documentation, you never want to have these really different or competing with each other. So idle off, idle on, they need to match up based on the numbers there. So let me try to put this in another way. When you add throttle, the idle control motor should disengage so it's not fighting with you, and this has been my whole problem the whole time. I had this set to probably I think 1%, 2%, and I took great pains to make sure that my throttle position sensor signal is very clean and very precise. So when I was adding small amounts of throttle, it was actually not cutting out the idle control motor, and so I was adding throttle, but then the idle control motor was trying to fight with me and bring the idle down, and so that caused almost 100% of my problem. So I just wanted to add this in here because this video would have been a lot longer had I gone through the whole thing, but as it turns out, all I had to do is drop this number down to 0.39. It could go even lower, but depending on the signal noise that's in your TPS, if you have it much lower than that, then you could get to a point where it thinks you're putting your foot on the gas when you're not actually putting your foot on the gas, and that's going to make the idle act erratically. So as it turns out, once I drop this down to 0.39, which is barely touching the throttle, then the behavior of the engine at extremely low near idle RPMs improved dramatically. So there's a lot of other good information in this video that might be worth thinking about, the troubleshooting process, but as it turns out, this one setting right here is going to be the one that that takes care of business for the most part, and you're going to have to figure out what that is for your particular setup. Now, the AEM one has it in this configuration. This is just an idle template that's got the idle percentage. This is my idle percentage versus the target idle, and you can see some of the other miscellaneous parameters here as well.
So if you have any questions about how I've got my idle set up and what I use for my numbers and how I want that idle to behave after a cold start, after a warm start, and how soon it comes down and all the rest, then I'd be happy to answer those questions. But for the most part, the biggest problem here was just not having that idle off percentage um, set correctly. So there you go. Mystery solved, at least for the time being.